folks, there it is. The Gram Parsons, Bob Buchanan.
Hickory wind guitar.
Hickory wind guitar.
Played by Jerry Garcia and all kinds of
Jose
others.
Feliciano.
Tim Hardin,
Tim
Fred
Hardin,
Neil, Bob
Fred
Weir.
Neil.
Yeah.
Jerry Garcia.
And Sean Clark,
Sean
Dave
Clark,
Griffin,
Uncle
and
Dave.
David Kraai.
Oh,
played it.
stop it.
Something in the water taught me how to crawl. Something in the water taught me how to fall. Something in
Hey everybody, how y'all doing? We're back with Something in the Water. I'm Sean Clark. This is Uncle Dave Griffin.
And right here, we have our long-awaited podcast guest, Mr. David Kraai, all the way from Woodstock, New York.
Great to be here.
Yes, sir. It's good to have
How's it going?
you. David has been a one of our acts at Gram Parsons Guitar Pool for, can you tell me how many years?
Well, I can because I was counting on my way over here.
Okay.
So this last fall was 15 years.
Doggone.
Heck
So-
yeah.
That means, God willing, and the creek don't rise, that'll be 16 this year.
Yes, sir.
Unless
great.
I really do something bad and unsavory today.
Okay.
Canceled. Don't get
Well,
canceled.
if you do it here, we'll just put it on the deep end. So it don't
okay.
matter. If you do anything bad or unsavory, we'll stick it on the deep end. But for 15 years, I guess so. That's when we first met.
Yep. It was 08, 2008.
Yep.
It's been a while.
And I remember that you reaching out saying, I'm playing Gram Parsons festivals all over the United States, and you're one that I have not played yet.
Yeah, I was thinking about that this morning too when I was getting ready to come here, how, there's all these different Gram Parsons festivals or tribute shows. And after I played, I think the first two I ever played were in Joshua Tree.
Cool.
But right after that, I thought to myself, when I would look at these from a fan perspective, I would see there's great acts playing and bands I didn't know that I wanted to see and bands I'd look up and be like, oh, these guys are cool. But it never seemed like there was somebody that was tying it all together. And I thought to myself, like, I'd like to be that guy. I'd like to be the guy that's like the through line through all of them, because not everybody can be in Georgia or California.
Yeah.
But I thought, hey, I want to do that. And I don't know, I just think music is, so connecting and about love that I thought, well, clearly Gram deserves that. And that was something that I always, from the very beginning, set out. And I'm glad that I found yours, because it's hard to pick favorites. But if I had to be backed into the corner, I would, of course, choose the Gram Parsons Guitar Pool.
Well, that's damn nice of you. And it's a great perception that you came up with there as to be the through line for all of them,
Well, anything that achieves some popularity, of course, people like to hitch their wagon to. And then, of course, something I always think about this, like, say, Gram, it's like a niche market. Then lots of people want to like hitch their wagon to it, but sometimes it's not from the most pure perspective.
Right,
it's more
exactly.
like a look how cool I am thing.
Yeah.
And I thought I had seen some bands or some individuals or some whatever promoters or just different people kind of be like that. And I thought that was a shame for anything, but especially for something like Gram, where he's not here and he hasn't been here for so long that it seemed really sad to me that people are trying to use this guy who kind of had a rough go at it anyway. And now he's not even here. Now people are being like, still using him or whatever.
Yeah.
And I thought, well, the best way to get in there is to make a little crack in the foundation and bring that love in there and remind even some of these people why we're here. And then, but also just put out that big hug for everybody to, for all the true, real people too. So I don't know. Hopefully I've done that over the last almost 20 years.
You are well loved right here in Waycross. I can tell you that much.
Thank you. Well, the feeling is mutual.
Yeah. You're one of my wife's favorites. And of course you ended up babysitting our son when he flew to New York.
Well, don't tell his girlfriend that I was babysitting.
That's right.
No,
was he an adult then, or was he still in high school? I can't even remember what year that was.
It was 2014 when he came up
was
for
already out of high school.
Visit to the Big Apple, but he wasn't acting like a kid, and we went out and had a good time, and it was my pleasure. It was my pleasure.
Well,
but I know
we always will appreciate you.
It's always harder for the parents to let the reins out. But no, he was a gentleman, and he's still a great guy, and as Sean knows clearly, he's a killer player.
Yeah,
and we
we're
all
talking
love
about the drummer for Pine Box Dwellers.
Little son of a bitch.
You can't say that on a regular episode. Mind you.
Hold it.
Notice I didn't take a bit of offense to it. It's just you can't say it on this episode. No, he's a cool kid. Yeah. Don't you call my wife bitching again. And so
keep my wife's name. When did you start listening to Gram Parsons? How did you discover Gram Parsons being from New York? I mean,
I think the first time I ever heard Gram Parsons was in 1996. Yeah, I guess it was 96. It was probably a perfect confluence. I got an album by this band called BR549. That's a great country band out of Nashville. They're not around anymore, but on their first studio album, they do Hickory Wind. So I liked that song, but also concurrently, I had that same time I had seen when I was in college, I used to trade bootleg tapes all the time. And one of the main bands that I trade bootleg tapes for was the Black Crowes. I really cut my teeth on them a lot. I first saw them when I was 11 years old, and they weren't even, they were an opening band for Aerosmith and didn't even really have any hits or anything yet. But I remember I liked them. And so then I was seeing them a lot and trading a lot of bootleg tapes. And so at the same time, I guess either that summer or some bootlegs I got from that summer, there was a couple different songs. I was like, these songs are off the charts. They're not on any album. And when I did my research, I found out that all 2 or 3 of those songs were by Gram Parsons. And then I also had this BR549 album, and I said, and Hickory Wind. This is also by this guy, Gram Parsons. So being one never to shy away from getting as much music as possible, I was brought up right by my folks. I went out to the mall and I got the CD that had GP and Grievous Angel on one CD, which I still at this time believe is possibly like the greatest single CD you could buy. And I got that and I loved it. I just still remember how even from that Black Crowes bootleg, the song She, they did that. And just how much I love that song and how much it could make me cry. And then I got that album or that double album and liked it all so much, and then just went down from there. And because I was used to trading tapes and et cetera, I was able to get some of the Burritos albums and stuff that weren't available in America at that point. Like in the late 90s, you couldn't get those Burritos albums with Gram, like unless they were an import, or if you went back and bought like found the vinyl or something. So I, bought import CDs of that and the International Submarine Band album, and just kept going.
It was probably about 96 that I found Gram, and it was through Dave here.
Oh, really?
And I grew up here. That's how unheard of people, he wasn't, you know. I guess
There
Dave has put it in everybody's ear for
there
the
was
past
a
25
small,
years, but
very small Gram Appreciation Society. Probably just Billy Ray and me for a long time. And there were other people slowly becoming aware of him because we did that 91 tribute at Stadium.
And I didn't know you then.
And that Mark
Yeah.
Holland guy had his little
Mark Holland had
newsletter thing
and
and whatnot.
the newsletter, and he also had the Graham's Place,
That hostel, yeah.
the hostel down in Tampa. And so we had met Mark along about that same time, and he came up to that 91 tribute, which was sponsored by the Ware County Waycross Ware County Chamber of Commerce. And beyond that, nothing happened until my backyard that year that we threw down on 1998 guitar pool, and then 99, 2000, 4 years in the backyard, and then we started doing it in the public in 2002. And it all has just kept on going, you know, and
So this year is 25.
26, actually.
26.
Yeah,
Oh, okay.
26 coming up. And Lord,
Not to outdo you, but I played every one of them, David.
Okay. Well, that's as it should be.
Hey, but that's still a good run, though. I mean,
Yeah, well, I
Not
remember,
many people can say
the
what you-
year when I realized I had at that point done half. You know, I was like, okay, this year I did half. So I knew that from that point on, it was all, you know, I was winning.
Yeah. Well, you'll forevermore be in cutting that margin.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Forevermore. Yeah, well, we're going to get into a little bit more talk about all of that. So you saying that your parents were very instrumental in guiding you musically. Did they have albums?
Well, I did luck out because both my mom and my dad, when they were together, but also when they split up, both of them, and then also my stepfather and my stepmom, all four of these, you know, parental figures love music. So there was a lot of records and a lot of things. My stepdad plays guitar. But like my dad and my mom, when they were married and lived in San Francisco, they lived next door to Janis Joplin, like in an apartment building,
Wow.
in the apartment exactly next door. So I grew up just hearing a lot of crazy stories about my mom wouldn't tell the stories too much, but my dad, this was one of his great joys in life. So he would tell me a lot of cool stories about going to parties at her house, or, you know, she'd come over and be like, Fritzy, I'm too drunk to get to the Avalon. I need you to drive me to my gig. This was all when she was still in Big Brother. So in like San Francisco, she was already a legend, but in the rest of the world, she was just making her way. So I always heard all those cool stories. My dad also, sometimes for extra cash, would like hang up posters or flyers for like Avalon and Winterland ballroom shows, Fillmore, Family Dog, all that stuff. And he always saved a couple. And so then at one point in my life, he gave me all of those old posters and flyers, probably about 100 of them. And I just always remember being like, this art is awesome. This music is awesome. And I mean, another big thing is when I would be traveling back and forth between my parents' house, which was about an hour. Usually my dad would take me and we'd ride in the car and we'd listen to albums and then we'd talk about them. You know, we talk about, my dad was a pretty spiritual, philosophical guy. So I remember we'd like listen to an album and then we'd like turn off the music and then we'd discuss the lyrics and some of the ideas. And he would tell me a lot of personal stuff that songs brought up for him. And, you know, I might've been in, you know, from like 5th grade to 12th grade, but I remember having pretty deep conversations with my dad when I'm like a little kid, not even thinking about relationships. And he'd be like, think about these lyrics. This is what it does to me. And so I just always, put a lot of validity in music and feelings and thought.
When did you play? begin playing? Was it because of him?
I started playing guitar a little bit in middle school. My stepdad showed me some stuff because he's a really good acoustic picker and has a lot of old Martins. He showed me a little bit, but I was too much in my, whatever, like school phase, hanging out with my buddies. So then it wasn't until I went to college, I remembered a little bit and had some charts and stuff. But then, I guess when I was there, when I was like 18, other guys in the dorm played guitar. And so then I thought like, oh, I could learn a little bit more, or I did always like singing in my room. So I was thinking probably more realistically than like, oh, maybe I could be the singer in some band with these other guys. But then of course it's a lot easier to play guitar when there's two people. So people started being like, oh, do this and do this. Then you can sing a song and I'll do all this other stuff. And it all kind of just started gelling. And probably a little bit, I would think like Sean, like when I was growing up, ever since I was a little kid, all I did was draw. Like when I graduated high school, everybody pretty much thought I was going to be a professional comic book artist because at that point, everyone was pretty much like, there's only 4 professional comic book artists that are better than you. So everybody thought that, but then I didn't do that. So then it actually all worked around perfect. That then kind of, I was working on music. I was still drawing. Finally, it all came together. And then luckily, I, like Sean with his Pine Box Dwellers stuff, I didn't have to go, hey man, can I pay you a bunch of money to draw this thing? And this is kind of what I want it to look like. And oh, wait, can you tweak that? Can you do this? I was just like, I'll draw what I want. Yeah. And I don't know. For me, that's also very fulfilling to put out like a whole piece of artwork that's been thought out musically, lyrically, visually, and not have to like hope somebody interpreted your idea.
I almost, with this past album we're about to come out with, I almost reached out to somebody, or I did reach out to somebody in Portland, Oregon for like some graphic design. I was like, I got an idea, but I just felt like pressured that I wasn't going to be able to finish it. I felt like we need to get this thing out. Everybody's waiting on me to do the art.
Yeah.
And I had so much going on. I was like, I'll just get this guy to do it. Somebody I followed, I didn't know him,
Yeah.
And man, it was not what I expected.
He did something for you.
Yeah, but like I had just got that tablet. I've been drawing with a Samsung tablet.
Oh, cool.
I just got it last December, and I drew like this. I didn't know much about it yet, and I was like, I got it to do the art, but I was like, the time I do this, it's going to take everything I've been doing. I've got to do like ink and then scan it good and send it to somebody and beg a friend to add color to it. I mean, all this stuff. So I was like, I got this tablet now, I can do it. And I was like, oh, this is going to be too hard. I'm not going to be able to. This is going to be a learning curve for me. I don't know why I'm dragging this story out, but anyway, got this guy to do it, and I sent these simple lines of what is now the thing, and he just like kind of colored everything in, and it didn't look like anything that I've been following him that I liked.
Yeah,
I was like, no, like try to explain it like this is, and he was just like, look, man, and I was like, it came to my. I finally read between the lines. I'm like, I don't think this guy's work is his work. Kind of like he's like taking stuff and putting it together, and then so I was just like, screw this, and I did it, and now it's what it is. But anyway, I almost, it was the only time I've ever like almost got somebody else to do something. But
well, it's interesting you say that because on the last record I made, not for artwork but for photography, I was going to pay this pretty famous photographer, very famous photographer. He said he'd do it and then like take this picture, and the amount of money was like through the roof. But I was like, you maybe only get a chance like this once, but then like every step of the way, just like you're saying, like
nothing,
it's not coming out that great, or, oh, now instead of doing X amount of work, I'm going to do half X, but it'll be the same money. And then finally I just had to do the same thing. Like, I guess you're not really all that into it, and that's fine, but I wish you just didn't kind of like waste some of our time. Cause like you're saying, that happened to me on another record too, where everything was done, but I'm like, I got to make this artwork.
Yeah.
And I didn't have an idea. And the record probably got held up for 6 months, and it feels really
Yeah. Like a lot of
bad
pressure.
to like
Yeah.
sitting there waiting.
Did y'all have to,
But-
in both of your cases, did you have to end up paying them anyhow?
Dude, I paid this guy up front.
Oh man.
But I said, look, this isn't working out. Is there any way I could get, and it was $500. And I was like, is there any way I could get my money back or, refund? Because this is not what I intended on at all. And I loved your stuff, but this is not anything like it. And he's like, well, from the work I've done already, I could give you back 3 of it. And I said,
Okay.
fine.
Yeah, at least
Fine.
that. Yeah.
Because he didn't, I mean, what am I going to do? Drive to Portland?
Yeah.
Hey, kid.
Book a whole tour just so you can go up there.
But, yeah.
Yeah, I thankfully was able to stop it. Like
Yeah.
I could see. I'm a big believer that when you're having a gut feeling that something is going wrong, you need to heed it. I think women generally are a lot better at heeding that than men. But I've been, as I get older, try to be if you got a feeling,
Yeah,
and
just-
I was getting that feeling, so I was
Yeah.
able to thankfully backpedal and stop with
Yeah,
no bad repercussions. But it's just interesting how. Yes, sometimes I guess when you're a creative, you just have to do it yourself to get it done right.
And I should have known I was never going to be happy with anything. that anybody
Well, that's
did,
the other thing too,
It's like when you are an artist, you're like, why didn't, And I see even people that are way better than me, like you try and explain your idea and then it come out. Because I think they're like I am. When somebody asks me to draw something, I'm like, this would be the worst thing I ever drew because it's your idea and I don't see it like you see it. And
Sure, yeah.
so an artist putting out what they naturally just want to do and put out is their best stuff, and then you're like, do something like that, but then you're like distorting their vision by telling them what to do.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So,
Well, it's amazing that both of y'all share that art/music.
It's cool. I mean, I think I know I'm not at all the first person to ever say something like this, but I think that when you look through history at the people that are some of the most creative people, they're almost never just of one artistic, execution. Bob Dylan clearly is an amazing lyricist and musician, but then he's also got all these amazing paintings and he's dabbled in acting and welding and all these things. And, Joni Mitchell, I think her paintings are amazing, and, poetry and all these different things. And I think even if you look back at, people like Dylan and Woody Guthrie and especially the folk tradition, it's like they didn't always think, I have to just create something. They'd open a newspaper and find an article and then write a song, and if you're a musician and all you do is listen to music, I think you're shortchanging yourself. You also need to go to the museum and look at paintings, and you need to watch the TV and read the news to see what's going on in the world. Because if all you're doing is in your own little microcosm of one type of art, you kind of miss almost everything
you gotta
else.
have information
Yeah.
to decipher.
To be
And I
able
mean,
to
I did-
spit stuff back out.
I even wrote a novel one time, 400 pages. I didn't want to, I still don't want to do anything with it. I just said to myself, I think I'm going to be artistically constipated until I remove this story from my body. And I don't care if anybody reads it, and I'm not expecting anything to happen with it, but I just know that everything else will be stuck until it's gone. So I did it.
Fiction.
Yes. Well, it's interesting because you were mentioning earlier when we were eating a delicious dinner that you were saying you got a book by a guy, and you're saying that it was fiction, but it was sort of like an autobiography. And I think about that a lot because I do love Jack Kerouac and a lot of those beats who, are putting something out there as fiction, but it is kind of like an autobiography. And I was definitely inspired by that. Everything wasn't true. Some things were embellished. Some things were a word I made up and loved, debellished. Then another word I made up, which is just truth, is bellish. But it was sort of like that, but being posed as fiction, you know, to get a story across, not to be like, look at me or anything like that. You know?
We covered this in another podcast that I read this little article somewhere in the newspaper that said people who suffer head injuries have a tendency to be more artistic than people without head injuries, more artistic, more musical, more clairvoyant.
Wow.
And then I can't remember the fourth one, just plumb crazy, I guess. But that's interesting to me because I've had the hell beat out of my head all through life. You know, marble steps, pecan limbs, baseball bats, golf clubs, or croquet mallets.
Well, maybe all these football players will be like the best artists of our times.
Yeah, maybe one. There was a football player, I think he played for Philadelphia, and he quit the NFL to become a major songwriter, and he had he wrote that hit, I can't make you love me if you
really?
don't.
Really?
Bonnie Raitt.
For Bonnie Raitt? Wow.
Who was that?
I can't remember the guy's name, but man, I saw him on Bluebird Cafe one night. This big old linebacker, you know, hovering over a electronic keyboard, you know.
Wow. Cool.
Yeah, that's neat. Yeah, that's interesting though. Artistic, musical.
I think we said this on the other podcast that we were talking about this, but Roseanne Barr and Sam Kinison were both in car accidents. Not the same one, but and they became that wild personality after the fact.
Is that right?
Okay.
I don't know if it. I know Sam Kinison died in a car accident, but he had something happen to him. Might not have been a car accident. But.
No, yeah, he had a traumatic brain injury too. I think it was something like that.
I guess that makes sense. You know, you get close to death, you think about it and you go, why am I going to hold any punches? Why am I going to, you know, be reserved? I always think, you know, I went to college and I have a degree in acting and I used to be a professional actor for a while.
Wow.
I think all of that stuff informs my music and my performance. But I guess what that helped me realize initially, and I still believe and see everywhere all the time, is, you know, to be able to transfer something on stage like that, you have to have no reservations and you have to be like a direct conduit, but that's in direct dichotomy to everything that the entire outside world has been telling you for your whole life. They're saying, sit down, be quiet, don't be loud, don't be unique, don't be yourself, don't have long hair, don't dress like a cowboy, you know? And so then...
Don't tell Clint Eastwood that.
Yeah, exactly. Well, he'll kick our butts. But yeah, then when you break all that down, then you can finally be free and hopefully be your true self that hasn't been marginalized and controlled by society and adults and jobs and et cetera. So, I mean, that to me offhand makes sense about Roseanne and Sam, that, yeah, maybe you're like, whoa, I just almost died here. Why am I going to go work at Dollar General? Why am I going to hold my tongue, you know, when someone's clearly being a phony, you know?
With Sam, he was, I don't know if he was a preacher yet, but he was on that road. And then he went totally 180 and he still had that preacher persona, you know, oh God, you know, the intensity of a
well, and that's
preacher.
Like, I don't know if you guys ever heard this, but Ani DeFranco, who's from Buffalo, New York, the reason she plays that unique style of guitar and the reason her voice is like that is because when she was being, you know, more traditional folky girl singer, she was like, I'm playing in these bars and literally no one's paying attention because it's just so whatever, homogenous in the background. So she was like, I got to make these people pay attention and get some interest. And now that's why she's her, you know, she's unique. And anybody who plays guitar like that is influenced by her. And I mean, I can tell who she is within a couple words, you know, every song. So it kind of makes sense like that. You got to fight to get something unique.
And it's interesting that some people didn't even have to go through that process, like a John Lennon or something. You know, he was just like balls to the wall when he got there, you know.
Well, and that could be from his mom dying when he was young.
A lot of things happened that made him like that. His daddy leaving and his mama dying and his aunt raising him when his mama was still alive. And when he come to be old enough to figure it all out, you know, then he became this bad boy, you know, but people like that are well over that hump.
Yeah.
You know,
and even someone like him at the end of his career, he still has to write that song, Watching the Wheels, because everyone's still telling him, how can you be a dad? How can you be this regular guy? You know, it's like, even after doing all of that, people still want to put him in a box and tell him what to do when he's clearly one of the greatest of all time and changed everything. But people still can't let you be free. Now they need you to be a Beatle. Like he says in that song, I don't believe in Beatles. I don't believe in all these other things.
That's good, very perceptive of you there, though, talking about how most people have been told this and that and other in life, you know, and then you grow up and like Linda Ronstadt always felt like, what am I doing up here? When the people would give her a standing ovation at the end of the concert, it'd be like, I'm not worthy of this, you know. A little bit of insecurity, shyness, or whatever. You know, everybody ain't outgoing.
Yeah.
You know, but you still thrust yourself into the role of superstar, star on the stage, you know, and in the spotlight and everything. And about, I don't know what percentage of all artists, but a lot of them hadn't coped with that, you know, and are still kind of like saying, "Oh, get me out of here," you know.
I mean, I think
Don't feel comfortable in
I think it even took her most of her career to feel comfortable going back to the music that she grew up with, which was all that like Mexican Tejano stuff, you know, and by that point she's already Linda F. and Ronstadt, but she's still thinking no one's going to accept this, you know? I mean, you even look at like those 80s Dylan albums where everybody's like, this guy's the worst. And then he comes back and now he's clearly like the best. So
it's interesting.
It is. It's all interesting to think about.
This business of music.
Well, and getting back to kind of looping it all back to the beginning stuff we were talking about with my folks and me kind of going on a path towards music. You know, I very clearly remember that, you know, even when I was drawing and doing theater, it was like I still loved music the most, but I kind of like that old like Marx Brothers thing, like, you know, I could never be in a club that would have me. Like I thought to myself, these musicians, they are so awesome. They're so amazing. Like there's no way I'm one of those people or could ever be one of those people. I'm this other artistic thing that's way less. And it wasn't really until a bunch of my friends were like, they were like, dude, do you realize that like every time we go to a bar to see a band play, like you're way better than these people. You just don't ever play music like outside of your house or at like a random open mic. Like you should just get gigs. And I was like, you're crazy. And then finally this guy I knew said, I booked this venue and I'm giving you a gig and you're not saying no. And you're going to be there and you're going to do it. And I'm not going to worry about it because I know it's going to be better than most of these other people. And that's like pretty much how I started playing gigs was because these people were like, dude, what are you doing? You are a musician. It's not this out of reach thing.
Yeah.
You are there. Like just get with yourself, you know?
That was your buds.
Yeah.
And your buds helped put you in that place. Well, they must have been good buddies.
They are. I'm a lucky guy.
You're still around?
Yeah, I mean,
close to
of
where
course,
you
I got
are
a
right now.
wonderful bunch of friends like you guys that I've known less time, but most all of my closest friends are guys that I've known since like pre-K, kindergarten,
Wow.
second grade.
That's awesome.
I just lucked out growing up. The town I grew up in, like I live in Woodstock, New York now. I grew up just a little bit outside of there, maybe 20 miles outside of there, in like this liberal hippie arts mountain town called New Paltz, New York.
Mhm.
That's 76 miles directly north of Manhattan. And I mean, me and those guys, we just lucked out getting to run around the mountains, run around the streets, having fun, seeing art, seeing different types of people, different ethnicities, different religions, all that stuff. So just when we grew up, we got to have a lot of fun. We got to have a lot of free thinking, the ability to talk about stuff. Even if you didn't agree with people, you talked about it. Nobody went home being like, you stink because you think different than me.
Yeah.
You talked about it. You went home, you thought about it, and then
Yeah.
you went and rode bikes the next day. You know, so I really lucked out in that way.
That's wonderful.
And being close enough to New York City to both of my folks were really good about being like, oh, there's like a great exhibit at the Metropolitan Museum of Art. We're going down there. And when I was growing up, because my dad went there, I went every Saturday from when I was, in kindergarten till when I was basically in 12th grade. I went every Saturday with him down to New York City, and we'd go to a philosophy school, and then we would go to museums or go in the park and do stuff there. So just kind of stretching our mind.
Yeah.
Well, that's got to leave an impact.
I think so. I thank my dad every day.
Mhm. Did either of your parents go to Woodstock?
They did not.
Yeah.
No, I think they were back from San Francisco by then, but they didn't go to Woodstock. Yeah, that would have been cool. But my dad did see Santana before he ever had a record deal and stuff like that. So
Cool.
Well, let's look at some of them pictures
we got
that I sent you, and just kind of let's go to the miscellaneous pics. I've got them pretty well in order. Let's go
Dave's
to
photo dump.
let's
This section is called Dave's photo dump.
Can you put a little what do they call that?
Welcome to.
What do they call
fanfare.
that? Little theme title and music behind it? Okay. It's Dave's photo dump. So they should be in order now. Is that 2008?
that's 15.
Let's see. Well, shoot.
2008 was like a Snively Groves box.
Is that all I sent you
that
right
was-
there? Crap. Okay, what's that right under it? That's 2008, isn't it?
This is 2016.
Never mind, dadgummit. Did I send you what crap? Okay, never mind. We'll just start with the 18th annual, which was 2015. But mark my word, folks, he was there from 2008 through 2015 as well. So anyhow, I just put these up there to kind of remember it all by. You were there 18th annual. Just click them off in order, and we'll just quickly move through these. Number 19 would have been that one, huh? Is that right? 19?
Yeah.
Okay. And Brandon Jones does most of the artwork for both festivals now. And doggone, I thought I had
David
all
did
of
a
them.
year.
I know, but I had it. I don't know why it didn't transfer.
You don't have the year he did?
I do. I sent them all from 08 through, or so I thought. Well, let's get off of this and go to the pictures. This is taking too long. Let's go to the pictures where I had them in order by date. A little bit of this, a little bit of that. Yeah, there's all of the flyers and pictures mixed together right there. Sorry, I thought that they would have landed in order on your device.
So this first picture, this girl in this picture with you is this your first girlfriend?
Amy.
I don't.
I'm just kidding.
What pic-
No,
I'm just
Amy
trying to come up
Labor
with something.
was in some of the early photographs. No, you were actually solo.
I haven't seen any pictures. I was just trying to be.
Oh,
These
there's
are
Albert
the
Lee.
celebrity photos. We just look at them. That's a beautiful girl. No, that is the great Albert Lee.
Yep, he is a monster player and a really nice guy too.
From
Where'd you meet him?
From England.
Yeah, he played with Emmylou Harris
Mhm.
after James Burton left the Hot Band. I've met him a few different times. That time was at this place called Daryl's House that's owned by Daryl
Yeah.
Hall. But he's also, I'm sure we'll talk about it later, but he's also played this guitar that I own that's got some wonderful pedigree.
Mm-hmm. So you're able to go to Daryl's house when they're taping, or is that? Does he have
He
an audience
has-
during that?
He has, I guess, the place where he tapes the show, which I think is actually like at his house.
Mm.
But then he opened this club
Oh,
that's
okay.
also called Daryl's House that
Gotcha.
used to be a different club that I've played at a bunch.
Oh,
yeah.
okay. Yes.
I didn't realize we were going to have a little photo gallery. This is fun.
Mhm.
Ah. Well, this is my good buddy Bob Buchanan, who was in the New Christie Minstrels and then went on to play with Gram Parsons and the International Submarine Band. That's us at his house in Saginaw, Michigan, with his two dogs, Murphy and Sophie. Bob changed my life with his big heart and his generosity and love of music. He bequeathed me a guitar that was his, that him and Graham used to record the Safe at Home album and that they wrote Hickory Wind on. Some other people also played that guitar on the Safe at Home album, like Glenn Campbell. And yeah, so I have this guitar. There's a big thing. You can read about it on my website, davidkraai.com. You'll see up at the top, there's a tab that says Hickory Wind Guitar.
Mhm.
And it talks about that guitar and Bob and how I got it and how all that happened and some of the adventures that the guitar had before it came into my possession, as well as some of the many adventures we had since I've been its custodian.
Cool.
And
That's
that picture
very
was
cool.
maybe from August or September 2014.
Mhm.
Bob passed away just a little over a year ago now.
Mm. Yeah, that was remarkable, and I think you brought that guitar with you along today.
Yes, we've got it here today, and it's been at many Gram Parsons guitar pull and
Mhm.
other wonderful places too. And since I got it, I've, besides bringing it to places like Waycross for
Mhm.
fans to hear and for other pickers to get a chance to play, I've gone out of my way to try to get it to anyone who would be able to have a
Appreciate it.
emotional experience
Mhm.
with it as well. So since I've had it, I got it to Emmylou and Albert Lee and Marty Stewart and Rich Robinson from the Black Crowes and a whole bunch of other people. Yeah.
And
I mean-
Charlie Starr played it last year.
Oh yes, he did.
Backstage.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That was fun. Yeah. And yeah, I mean, it's always a special moment for everybody to play it that cares about something like that. We were alone, just the two of us, sitting as close as Sean and Dave are right now, and she was crying, which was very powerful. I had to be a gentleman and avert my eyes, just, you know. But she said it was something she would never forget. And I hope that's true, because she's somebody I'll never forget either.
She's as real as it gets. Cool.
What year did Bob come to the festival?
That was,
It was Charlie Louvin.
09.
Yeah. It was Charlie Louvin, would have been 09, yeah. All right. That's Davy Gravy.
Yeah.
This was, I was telling you guys a little bit before in the green room that Woodstock, New York is actually the oldest artist colony in the country. The arts colony there is called Birdcliff, and it was founded, I think, in 1903. Maybe it was 1902, though. But so tons of artistic people have been coming to Woodstock ever since then, and we keep that going now in many ways. But one way that you can see right over Wavy Gravy's shoulder is the Woodstock Film Festival. And this was like a special screening of a documentary on Wavy Gravy that I got to go to. And how could I turn down making an awesome picture like this?
That's
cool.
That's great.
That's on my fridge as well.
His eyes still twinkle. He's a character.
Chris.
There he is.
And yeah, there's Chris Christopherson. This was at a wonderful festival that happens by us. When I moved out of the area that I grew up in, and that Woodstock, where I live now, is in, is an area of New York State called the Hudson Valley. And when I moved back from Los Angeles to the Hudson Valley, I said to myself, I'm going to move back to where I'm from, and doing that would put me equidistantly between Levon Helm in Woodstock and Pete Seeger in Beacon, New York. And those are two of my favorite people, and two people that constantly influence me. And this was at a festival that Pete Seeger would put on called Clearwater Festival. And all the money goes to clean up the Hudson River. When Pete first moved to Beacon, I think it was in the early 60s, but I could be wrong. The Hudson River was so dirty that you couldn't even go in it. If you went in it, you would get sick. And so Pete used all of his energy. This was when he was like blacklisted and couldn't even get shows really, except at children's camps and at schools. He got a bunch of good people like him together, and everybody worked hard to get a bunch of money to build a sloop boat. And Pete said, when that sloop's sailing on the river, people look out and go, boy, look at that beautiful boat. Why is there a loaf of poop floating in the water right next to it? We better do something about that. Yeah. And now you can swim in the Hudson River. And he even did a benefit where he made this underwater web thing so people can swim right in the river and not have to risk getting pulled away by an undercurrent or anything.
How about that?
And I'm lucky that I got to play with Pete several times and see him many, many more times. And he always did great things like this, bring amazing musicians to our area at this great festival where you could just see some of the best musicians of all time in a really beautiful space right by the water that's pretty intimate. And I'm glad I got to meet Chris Christopherson, who I think is one of the most talented guys and an extremely handsome man.
He is that.
And him and Emmylou are constant proof that Going Gray can look amazing.
Kings and Queen of Gray.
The Silver Fox.
Oh, and there's Lee. There's Levon.
Oh, wow.
This was...
what are you telling him? You remember?
You got Tippy
My
Tina's
girlfriend at the
shirt.
time was taking the picture, and Levon had a soft spot for her, and we were just kind of making a little joke.
Little joke.
This was when Levon was still battling throat cancer,
Right.
so he couldn't sing at this point, but he is still the only drummer that can bring me to tears with only his drumming. I could cry from one snare hit if it came down to it. And he could be so strong on the drums, even when he was sick, walk off stage.
I saw him. The only time I saw him was after this because he had just started singing again. It was at Live Oak down there at Ronnie.
I bet that was great. I still remember the first time he sang at a show after he couldn't sing, and it was like a shot of adrenaline straight up my whole body. I remember he said one word and I was up and I couldn't even stop moving, and all these people just started dancing, and it was a really beautiful moment. This is in Kingston. This picture's in Kingston, New York, out at which is just down the road from Woodstock. Kingston, New York used to be the first capital of New York State till the British burned it to the ground. But yeah, Levon would always do a lot for the community. This was at a free show he did. And all around our area, he would always be one of the first people to go help for a benefit. And even in my hometown for kind of as long as I could remember, whenever it was Veterans Day or something like that, he would come down for the parade and he would drive a different veteran in his Saab convertible every year. And
Now his Saturday Night Ramble,
Midnight Ramble.
Midnight Ramble at the barn.
Correct.
That was Woodstock, right?
That's in Woodstock. Yeah. Yep. That's at his house. Those started out as like rent parties or whatever, mortgage parties.
Right.
Because, well, one of Levon's good quotes was, "Don't let your income affect your lifestyle." And he definitely lived that way sometimes, but always being a gentleman to the nth degree. So yeah, those concerts started because they were going to lose his house, and he was like, "How can we make some money as fast as possible?" So they did a concert at his house, worked out, got that paid, and they kept doing them. And then of course it picked up steam and everybody heard about it. And, I mean, I saw Emmylou play there.
I was about to ask if you've seen, do you go in there?
A lot. Yeah. I've been there a lot. I've played there too.
Cool.
But I mean, yeah, through the whole echelon, Emmylou, Elvis Costello, Bob Weir, Bruce Hornsby, Warren Haynes, Phil Lesh. I mean, Charlie Louvin, all sorts of, people would want to come play there. It's only, when he first started, they only let 100 people in. Now I think they let about 150 people in, but it's always intimate, and anybody who is in the audience knows they're getting something special that'll never happen again. And everyone on stage, whether it's Emmylou or me, puts their best foot forward because you're on hallowed ground, and I recommend that anyone anywhere who's like us, who loves music, that's one of the most special places to see music.
Are they they're still doing music since he's passed?
Of course, it's, some of those bigger names don't come as much since Lee's not around anymore, but they still get plenty of good bands. I think this past weekend, maybe it was 2 nights with Railroad Earth.
Cool.
But they still do stuff. And, you guys always
Any
have an
chance
invite up to
the
Woodstock.
Waycross
So
Stagecoach might get
come
in
on
there?
up.
Yeah, that'd be awesome.
Manuel.
Oh, yeah.
Yep. And this is Manuel, who made the Flying Burrito Brothers very famous suits from the cover of Gilded Palace of Sin. He was the son-in-law of Nudie, the famous rodeo tailor. I do have a Nudie shirt. I do have a Manuel shirt too, but this is one time when I was in Nashville. I've met Manuel a bunch of times, but I went there to just say hi, and thankfully I got this wonderful picture, which our mutual friend Howard Seaman, aka Dakota Dodge, when he saw this picture, he said, "You are Zelig." which I don't know if you know that movie by Woody Allen, but it's kind of like the precursor to Forrest Gump. Like, you know, this guy Zelig was like everywhere.
We were at Manuel's that time we went to
Yeah, I don't think he was
Nashville,
there.
but I don't think he was.
Yeah, we walked through and looked at some of the price tags and drooled. And
Yeah. Well, I do remember the first time I ever met him, which was not this time. I was with my girlfriend at the time, and he was being flirtatious with her, and then he referred to me as a shrimp. And I had never been so happy to be, demasculinized in my entire life.
if you get a suit made, it's got to have shrimp on it.
Because I'm like Forrest Gump.
Oh, that's good.
Jumbo shrimp. Bite-sized shrimp.
And this is my dear friend Neil Flans,
Oh, okay.
who played with Gram in the Fallen Angels.
Mm-hmm.
Uh,
Pedal steel.
Yep, he played pedal steel. Neil also played for Charlie Louvin for a while too, and did play with Ernest Tubb and stuff too. But yeah, Neil played on one of my records. I didn't know him then, but because of how much I loved Gram and how much I loved Neil's pedal steel work with him, I got him to play on a record of mine, but we really hit it off. And then every year for the rest of his life after that, Neil just passed away, I guess, about a year ago or so. Then every year for the rest of his life, I would go to Austin and hang out with Neil for about a week, and we'd stay up all night. He had an amazing collection of old country music bootleg DVDs, like stuff that you can't, I don't even really know where he got them, but stuff that you like can't buy. Most of it isn't even like digitized somehow. He got some friend of,
footage.
yeah. And so he was a bit of definitely a night owl. So we would go out and do fun stuff all day and play. And then at night we'd kind of hunker down in his apartment and watch probably every night, like 4 to 6 hours worth of country stuff. And he would just school me on all the pedal steel stuff. And, well, damn, I wish I played pedal steel.
Yeah.
But this was a good picture, and we would always take a picture right in that same place every year. And Neil's in the Pedal Steel Hall of Fame now too, and I'm lucky I got to be there when he got inducted in maybe it was 2015 or 16 in Colorado was where they did that. So we met up there too, and think about you every day, Neil. I miss you so much. Such a great friend and a great man and a kind soul and a wonderful player.
And there, what guitar? There is the guitar.
This is a photograph of Susan Hall trying to steal my guitar.
Looked like she was doing a pretty good job.
The always beautiful Susan Hall from
Yeah.
North Carolina.
She plays
Another artist at the Gram
guitar
Parsons.
pool.
This picture was taken at the guitar pool in Waycross. And,
Yeah. I think that probably wasn't the first year I brought it, but that was,
may have been about
I think that might have
19.
been the 20th anniversary. And because of that,
Yeah.
I wanted, besides playing the guitar, I wanted every person, no matter whether I knew them or not, just if they wanted to hold that guitar or play it, I wanted them to do it. So
I think that's the year I also got to play it. I knew that it came another year before that I never. got
okay.
to- me
So
and you
yeah,
were
I
never
think
in the
we
same
stood
spot.
over there for a couple hours
Yeah.
and let everybody get
That was
their
very
mitts
cool.
on her.
Mhm.
Michael Bond played it. And I played it.
Mhm.
Jesse played it.
We all got to go around with it.
Yeah.
But we'll see it live here, folks. You'll see it live.
It's a beauty. That's a 1962 Martin D28. That's Brazilian rosewood. I think that's when a Brazilian rosewood was standard on a D28. If my memory serves me well, they stopped doing that standard in 64. Then I think in 65, they switched that guitar pick guard from tortoiseshell to black.
Mm. Cool.
For all you Martin nerds
Yeah.
out there like me.
Martin heads. Okay. That's good.
I wonder whose
Well, go
hand
back
that is
to
there
that,
on the left.
I don't know. It's
It could be yours.
no, I'm back there. You see my hat
yeah, there you
right
are.
through
Okay.
the thing there. That's somebody that's married.
Maybe it's
Sean.
Billy
Could be
Ray.
Sean. No,
It's not, I got
would have been a black ring. It's questionable. Go back to the flyers and pull up 2012. Or 13. No, it's 13th annual, whichever one that is. I believe that's right. 13th annual to the flyer portion instead of the pictures. The flyers should be all little. They start with GP on there. All right, go to 2013, the next year. Voila.
Yeah, that's the year.
Okay, so as I said, most of the flyers over the years have been done by one guy, good friend of ours from Waycross, Brandon Jones. But we have broken that tradition ever so often, and this is some of David Krai's artwork. Our guest.
Yeah, that was a.
I'll never forget learning somehow or another. Maybe it's something that I saw online. And I said, my God, you're an artist. And you said, yes. I said, how about designing the flyer for me one year?
That's a great one too.
Oh, man, that is
Thank you.
superb.
Yeah, that was really an honor and a life highlight when you asked me to do that, to get to make this poster for such a great event, and that so many friends, now friends, play at. So I, every moment I was working on it, I wanted to do good for not just me and Gram and you guys, but for all of us, our Gramily. I guess when I was making that, I was thinking, you see all these pictures that people draw of Gram, and you can always tell they're Gram, but it's really hard, I think, to like catch someone's essence in a drawing. Like when you see a tattoo that someone got of like their dad or something, you're always like, it's pretty close, but it's not really it. So
I tried my hand at one year and did the poster, and it looked like Roger Waters instead of Graham.
Okay, yeah. So I kind of was like,
it's still good though, and there's Ty's rendition, and and everybody, the soul of the person is right here, and if you don't get the eyes in a proper portrait or tattoo or something.
I've never been good at making it look like.
And his eyes are pretty unique. He has that thing like his dad has,
It's like a little
hound dog eyes.
So I never tried to put eyes on this. I just thought, like, let's skip that whole thing. Everybody knows who he is. And in a way, he touched all of us. So it's kind of like an open-ended thing.
That's more iconic of, that's him without,
It's like that one that Ian did of the skeletons.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
The three skeletons, Elvis, Graham, and Hank. And you know who's who because of the costume,
Exactly, yeah. Yeah, and then I just tried to get a bunch of the iconography from that jacket on here without, putting the marijuana leaves and stuff. That way, that way nobody'd be like having a
conniption
fit at LL Creek when they walk their daughter in there or something.
What? Is that pills? No, it's UFOs.
But that was really fun. And I did originally have a different idea that still maybe someday, if
hold on to it.
If I ever do it again,
don't spoil it for me.
I still think of it a lot because it'll be really cool if I ever do it. So
That's cool. Well, let's talk about this last festival last
sure.
year. It was our first one back after a 2-year COVID hiatus. We skipped 20 and 21 due to the old coronavirus. So we jumped from 2019 to 2022. And at 2022, you once again played. And it seems that you met somebody there. And you had a little bit of a premonition. So
A
to
cosmic
speak.
American
A
moment.
cosmic premonition. Tell the folks out there what happened.
Well, I guess if we're going to get all cosmic, since I think Gram probably did have something to do with it. I mean, one thing that coming down here for however you want to slice it, 15 years, a lot of cosmic things have happened to me. And there's been definitely at least once or twice where I definitely was talking and hanging out with Gram, which I know is because I was here. No, a little bit before, when I was on my way down, I was on tour for, I guess, about 3 weeks. And the fest, this guitar pull was my last shows of that tour. And I had a dream while I was on the road that I met a redheaded woman, which, of course, people like Bruce Springsteen, they sing songs about redheaded women all the time. But
he's got a good one.
He does. But that dream caught me a little off guard because that had never been something that was really in my wheelhouse. So I took notice and I didn't really know what was going on. And then after I played and after we saw Charlie Starr and everything, somebody came up behind me and I was wearing a nudie shirt and a different cowboy hat, but I was, as I like to say, all cowboyed out. And somebody came up behind me and said, "You are dressed really sharp and you're a really handsome man." And I turned around and it was a gorgeous redheaded woman. And I thought that was exceptionally cosmic. And I thought to myself right there, like, well, man, this is probably really something. And then thankfully, as the weekend progressed and now as life has progressed over the last 6 months or so, thankfully that's my girlfriend. And I do feel, I feel like she's my soulmate. So
that's awesome. That's great.
I think and it turned out concurrently that about the same time I had that dream, she had actually, being a spiritual person, not necessarily a religious person, but she still prayed and said, "I just want to find the person I'm supposed to be with and someone that's going to treat me right and that I can treat right." And it was about the same time. And she said when she saw me across that field, she didn't even know I had played at the festival, but that she felt a pull that she had never felt before in her life, that she had to go talk to me. So, of course, anybody can believe whatever they want, but I'm going with full-on cosmic,
Gram Parsons up there.
Gram Parsons, Romeo and Juliet story.
Yeah.
Doing some puppeteering.
So thankfully now it's been this long and everything still feels not even just as amazing, even more amazing. So forever, as much as Waycross and you guys and the guitar pull is always one of the most things that I cherish in my life now, it has gotten even higher up there. So I thank you guys and I thank Gram and I thank this land of the trembling earth for giving us a place to meet and giving us more ways, all of us, to connect and share in love and connectedness and togetherness.
Well, I appreciate you telling that story. That's sometimes that might be a little like too much information somebody wants to throw out there, but I loved it when I heard it the first time, and I thought that it'd be good for the podcast.
Well,
too.
thank you. No, I mean, people need to be, especially like you said, after COVID, where no matter what you think politically or medically or anything, I think we can all agree that the world went through a lot. And unfortunately, a lot of people, instead of coming together, we're finding ways to find separation between people.
Yeah.
When pandemic first hit, I thought to myself, well, this might be really good. I thought this is going to be great. Everyone's going to realize we can all die. We can all get sick. We're all the same. We're all in this together. But then, unfortunately, it seems like a large swath of people, just due to fear or whatever, we're trying to find ways or falling prey to believing ways of division between us. Whereas, as like Pete Seeger would say, if everyone's singing at the same time, we can get it done together. If all the little people got together, you can beat anything, and I just think it's good. Sorry to bring it back around. I think it's good to remind people of togetherness, of love, that all people want. I think most people that have their heads screwed on straight all want the same thing. They want to feel love. They want to give their love to someone. They want to have food. They want to have a house. They want to have friends. They want to have a drink. They want to express themselves. And that story, as opposed to making me shy, makes me hope that someone would hear it and go, there is still a chance for togetherness. There is still love. Like, I always hear people love to be like, oh, I'm a hopeless romantic. That's like, in my opinion, that's kind of like already losing the game before you even like left the starting line. So I used to always say, well, and I guess I still am, but I'm a hopeful romantic. I believe it can happen, and I believe it's out there. We just need to, like all this stuff we were talking about with acting or performance, it's like you need to break down all those fears and control. And when that happens, then you can be free. And if we all listen and remember that we're all the same and we all need the same things, then we can be together. And I hope that story just makes some people re-believe in love and reminds some people that, put down the toilet seat, wash the dishes, just do all the little stuff, because love and togetherness is a very beautiful, special thing that you can't count on. We could all right now, if any of us wanted to leave this room and we needed $5, we could go figure it out. Even if we just went and played guitar for a few minutes or just ate our shame and asked some people for money. You can get more money. If you need to get a car, you can go rent a car, whatever. But you can't just find love. You can't just find a friend because you want to. You have to actively work at it. And thankfully, I think over all the years I've been alive, which is growing further and further, and thankfully because of wonderful stuff from my parents and friends like you guys, but my dad taking me to philosophy school and stuff, I think I've always been a searcher. I'm not afraid, just like touring or whatever, to put in the hard work. And if you do that with a relationship, you speak your truth. You don't go, I'm not going to tell my wife about this thing because then I'll have to put up with some stuff. It's like that's creating more of a division. So just reminding people, love is real. Love is everything. Love can go on and on. Like when my dad died, the big thing that I processed to, qualify that in my mind is I realized that now he entered a timeless state. When he was alive, everything could be judged by, we saw a movie and we laughed, or we went to see Levon together and had a good time. There's all these tangible things that are based in here. Now it's something timeless. That love can go on forever. That man will live forever as long as people remember him, which I know I always will. So that's the goal now for me, is to have my friendship with you guys not just be for here, to be forever. And whatever that means to anybody, whether you think there's heaven or hell or nothing, whatever, but to go on forever. And that's my goal for love in general, for all the people I love and care about.
Very eloquently and beautifully spoken. And would you consider running for president? I'll vote for you.
After the acid wears off, sure.
That was well put.
Very good.
We're going to take a little break right now, and when we come back, we're going to manifest all of that love in the shape of a Martin D28. We'll be right back.
That was awesome.
Okay.
I wanted to be like, and we'll be right back.
Something in my brain won't let me stray. Something in my veins gonna find its way. Something in the water taught me how to pray. When that cold black water finds its way into your veins, you'll never be the same.
Well, we're back with our guest, Mr. David Kraai from Woodstock, New York. David, tell me about this guitar. This is the one, right?
Yes.
That we spoke of.
This is the 1962 Martin D28 Brazilian Rosewood that Gram Parsons and Bob Buchanan wrote Hickory Wind on.
Do you know whose it was originally? Was it Bob's?
It was
or Gram's?
Bob's.
It was Bob's guitar. Okay.
Yeah, according to Bob, a lot of those guys that were, let's say, more famous than him, like Stephen Stills or David Crosby or someone like Gram, who had a bunch of bread. A lot of them, they wouldn't. It wasn't like now. Like if we had a little hootenanny party, we'd all bring our guitars and we'd be out picking. He's like, most of those people would just show up and be like, "Who's got a guitar?" Now Bob said he was constantly paranoid that he wouldn't be able to get another nice guitar like this, so he always brought it everywhere. He didn't want it in his car because he thought someone will come back and it's gone. So he would always bring it. So at these various parties and stuff, plenty of cool people played this guitar, like Jerry Garcia, and David Crosby, Jose Feliciano.
Oh my gosh.
A lot of people. But he would bring this, and he said Gram borrowed it for extended periods at times, or would take it home with them. That's why they used it on the Safe at Home album, because Gram didn't either have a guitar or, gave it to someone or broke it or left it or whatever. And they knew that Bob was a reliable dude who would have a guitar. So he brought this, and that's how both Gram and Bob used it to record the Safe at Home album, as well as Glenn Campbell, who came in to do session stuff. And then, that's why when they were on the famous little train trip down to Winter Haven, I believe, that Bob and Gram took together. That's why this guitar was there for them to write Hickory Wind on. So,
hell yeah.
Woo. And then, then Bob protected it all that time from when he left Los Angeles in the early 70s and had it with him and was playing and stuff. And, like I said, people could read more about this guitar on my website, David Kraai, KRAAI.com. But basically what happened was when Bob made that surprise appearance at the Guitar Pole and you graciously had me back him for Hickory Wind, that got him back into performing. He hadn't performed a show, I think, in about 40 years at that point. So then when he went back home, he was... like I think a lot of us when we go to Guitar Pole, inspired and reinvigorated. So he started playing, but every time he was playing a show, he got back into it. He'd be sitting there playing this guitar, and while you or I would be like playing and be like, "Oh, life is good," he was going like, "Gram's dead. Fred Neil's dead. He played this guitar. Tim Hardin, my other buddy's dead. He played this guitar. Oh, this is getting heavy. I'm not having a great time here." So then he went and got a different guitar. When he's playing that guitar, he's like, life is good. Okay. Then flash forward a little, he goes, wait a minute, this guitar might have some total heaviosity for me, but for somebody else, it would be a game changer. Yeah. It would be magic. Yeah. So then the wheels got in motion for that to happen. And that's why I'm just lucky to be its steward right now. This is the type of thing that's going to go on and on. You know, I'm not going to have somebody bury me with this or leave it in my closet when I'm gone. I'm going to find some other guy like me who's, you know, like I said, Bob didn't want it to be like in a museum, catching some dust, not being used. That's a shame for an instrument. How do you think an instrument would feel about that? Like on one hand, they're like, oh, that's cool for a little while, but I'm done. You know, that's not fun. He didn't want it on some rich guy's wall. Some guy who's like, oh yeah, I bought this guitar and I don't even know how to play guitar, but I love Gram Parsons. So look at it. Don't touch. He wanted it to be making new history while honoring old history, not be in the hands of some person who was just trying to be like Gram Parsons Jr. or something. So, and look at this. Now we're here in 2023.
Well, let's hear David Kraai.
Okay, yes. Here's a song off a record I made called Country Dreamer. And since we were talking about my good buddy Neil Flans before, who played steel with Gram, Neil played steel on this song on the album. And this song's called Old Oak and Chicory. Stoves and Tijuana throws, leather boots and a broken nose, black cats purr and jackets of sheep's fur, bringing back the smell of old oak and chicory. Orange and white Christmas lights, Leon Russell and a sidewalk shuffle, Martin guitars and vintage bars, bringing back the smell of old oak and chicory. Old oak makes you lonesome, while chicory will keep you up. All the miles on this old highway don't make it any easier to say a goodbye. Goodbye, good luck. Faded jeans in New Orleans, a starlight and you at night. This hard heart and heart and one more false start, bringing back the smell of old oak and chicory. These thoughts of home, they keep playing with my memory. They're bringing back the smell of old oak and chicory. Oak makes you lonesome, while chicory will keep you up. All the miles on this old highway don't make it any easier to say a goodbye. They don't make it easier to say a goodbye. Goodbye, good luck.
All right.
Yeah.
I'm got, man, so many things going through my head, you know, just hearing the tone and the sound pouring out of that hole.
Good. That's
And the
good
guitar
line.
sounds good too. Sorry.
Considering the magic of the instrument itself, you know. And tell me this, do you know what chicory is?
I was going to ask.
Okay. I dog if
I was sitting over here
it's,
dumbfounded. Like,
another kind of wood.
No, chicory is like a coffee substitute that's mostly known and utilized from New Orleans.
Really?
So if you go,
Substitute coffee.
yeah,
basically,
a different type of like a root, I
Right,
think it
right.
is.
Chicory
and,
root. That's right. I've heard
yeah,
that
so if you
before.
go to like New Orleans and you go to that famous coffee and beignet place, Cafe Du Monde, they sell their own like
We're
chicory.
going. Let's have some.
chicory
We'll
thing.
try
Yeah.
some of that, folks.
Yes.
We'll let you know. old oak and chicory.
Yeah, so I was kind of writing that song as kind of like a, I don't know, sort of like a image poem, conjuring nostalgia. So a lot of images flashing and thinking about the emotional impact those have on kind of your heart and your psyche and your mind, with the idea of remembering. I a lot of times think that we remember things, not always how they were, but how we want them, how we want things to be, and we forget a lot of the bad things and remember the good things and put some rose-colored glasses on those
Much in
too.
the same way that Hickory Wind was.
Yes,
The song
well-
Hickory Wind was the same thing, that returned to nostalgia
I would be
imagery.
remiss if I didn't
And
mention that
chicory
when I
and
wrote,
hickory rhyme.
that when I wrote this song, when I first wrote it, I was not thinking about Hickory Wind at all. But then when I was done with it and I came back to it a day later, my first thought was maybe this is thematically too similar to Hickory Wind. And so for a moment, I was
didn't
going
think
to
of it
abort.
like that, but I do
No.
want to ask,
Thank you.
did you write that song before you had this guitar?
Yes.
Okay.
I did. Yes. What were you going to say, Sean?
I was going to say about the same thing, that I thought it was.
So you weren't cheating.
It was.
I was
it
not. No.
Thematically, it fits in Hickory and
Yeah,
Chicory.
but I wouldn't have even thought of that but by virtue of the fact that hickory and chicory rhymes. And then it dawned on me when he was talking about the reason he wrote the song was imagery of
Yeah.
the past. I thought, well, that's what Hickory Wind is too.
You are correct.
The oak tree that I climbed, and I remember.
Yeah, I didn't catch that part listening to it. I thought of,
Well, smells and sounds are both very good at triggering.
Yeah, I think that smell is one of the most triggering things. Like you could have not, like, say you dated some girl when you were like 16 and you never smelled like that perfume again, and then tomorrow you smell some girl
Yeah, boom.
at the supermarket. You're like, you're right back there.
Yeah,
You're almost like crying.
or that stuff they put on vomit in fucking elementary.
That's usually eraser dust.
Ironically, I wrote this next song about that.
Play us another one.
All right. Well, this is off the last record I made, and this one we made up just outside of Woodstock. We got, you guys got a lot of Gram history up here. Of course, we got a lot of other history up there, and we got this wonderful house up there, legendary house called Big Pink, which is the house where Bob Dylan and the band recorded the Basement tapes, which is sort of like ground zero for Americana music for people that don't know. And it's also where 3 out of the 5 guys from the band lived while they were making and working on the songs for their debut album, which is called Music from Big Pink. It's not just a clever name. So me and my band, we got in there. We went into the very same basement, and we did it exactly 50 years after the Basement tapes. And we were the first people to release a record from down there since the Basement tapes.
Yeah, right.
So all of that is to say, I'm a very lucky, blessed man in a non-religious way. And so, yeah, this is a song, since I'm on the road, I'll play this one. This is a song about the road.
All right.
Amongst other things, of course. Sun dancing down the road,
The miles behind will show your heavy load. Sometimes what's real, it ain't what's been said. And all you know is there's another day ahead. So sing me an old song with a new melody. Sing me one by Mr. Woody Guthrie. Sing me an old song that my mama knew, and I'll sing with you. Over the river and under the line, everything becomes legal in due time. When something's too pretty to ever own apart, you've got to take a picture of it with your heart. So sing me an old song with a new melody. Sing me one by Mr. Woody Guthrie. Sing me an old song that my mama knew, and I'll sing with you. And as the moment passes, you can't keep from trying to hold on. And as it all surrounds you, you can hear it singing that old song on and on. Song with a new melody. Sing me one by Mr. Woody Guthrie. Sing me an old song that my mama knew, and I'll sing with you. I'll sing with you. I'll sing with you.
Right.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Your songs are reminds me, as long as I've known you, kind of like what your dream girl, when she tapped you on the shoulder and told you that you look sharp and you're handsome too. And every girl I've ever spoke to at these festivals, they're always talking about you. And
Well, that's funny because this past year, these friends of mine, Brian and Jesse, they were at the festival.
the people who live in Gram's home in Winter Haven, Florida.
Exactly.
Those
Yes.
people, yeah.
Wonderful people, good friends now. Thankfully, I'm very lucky. But they were there the night before I played, and when I got there to play, they come up to me and they're like, "Oh, when we told everybody that we knew you," I don't know who said it, but they said, someone said, "Oh, you better get up there early when he plays because all the pretty girls love to come up
There
close."
you go. See,
And I said, "Well, where are they?"
well, I always heard that too, and I would say, I don't get it. No, I'm just kidding. I'm just kidding. But my point
That's because you're my hetero life mate.
what I was going to make was that musically too, you always get those songs that you perform, guitar, you got the mouth harp and all this, very Dylan-esque in the instrumentation. But your songs are just, it's like you're talk about love and all in the first half before the break. They're basic human emotions, and everybody can relate to that. They're just right there for you to grab, and that's why I think that's one of the reasons you're so popular. The other thing being your masculine, good looks, and
well, hopefully that's the lesser component.
and your and also your sartorial splendor.
Thank you, brother. Well, I really appreciate that because I have tried with everything we were talking about in the first part, art, theater and acting, music, just anything. I mean, and this is just this is what I try to do with my art, but also what I believe about art, but that's just my opinion, is that the best art, is an examination of the human condition. And hopefully, whether it's a happy song or a sad song or something in between, people listen to it. They think about stuff. They don't think what I think, but it helps them realize something about their life. And then they move forward, a little bit better, even if they cried, but that made them feel better, or they danced around and had a great time, or they just said, hey, I never really thought about it that way. If people are thinking, if people are feeling, and we're examining all this great stuff, love, compassion, loss, life, then it's successful.
That's what you strive for as a songwriter. You put down in 3.5 minutes something so basic and universal that everybody can relate to it. You can do that.
Even the other day, I was listening to some Everly Brothers stuff, and one thing that I always like to do when I'm listening to music in my car, there's this button you can push that toggles on my car, between like the track number, like track 6, but then if I push this button, it'll have like the minutes and seconds of the track. So I was listening to this Everly Brothers compilation that maybe had like 30 songs, and I'm like, song after song, I'm like, but after every song, I'm pushing that little button. How long is this song? 2 minutes. 2 minutes. 2 minutes and 5 seconds. And it's like, if you can do that,
there's a lot of information.
In 2 minutes and 5 seconds, because I do love Bob Dylan. And I know when I first started writing songs, like some songs that I have that are now like 2 verses, when I wrote them, because I was so in love with Dylan, I wrote like 7 verses. And then I was like, you don't need that many verses. Now, he does a lot. And on some songs that I have, it did need that, but not on every song.
Right.
Yeah, there used to be a point when I was trading those bootleg tapes where I'd be like, if a live version's less than 8 minutes, it must be lame. No, that might be true for like Mountain Jam by the Allman Brothers. You don't want an 8-minute version. You want the 33-minute version. But you don't always need an 8-minute version of Rockin' Pneumonia and the Boogie Woogie Flow or something.
No.
Break it down again.
Again and again.
Give the drummer some.
Well, speaking of that, I'll play you a new song because this is a love song. And I was just down in Florida. When was that? I don't know. It's all a blur, but maybe it was a couple weeks ago. Starting on a new record. And I did some recording with John Corneal, who played with Gram in the International Submarine Band and on the Birds.
When this guitar was being used.
He did, yes. And we used this guitar, so it was a nice circular moment. And I know Bob and Gram and Neil and everybody from afar, I'm sure, was smiling. John also played with Loretta Lynn and a lot of other people. He's considered the first country rock drummer. But we did this song. It's a love song. And so I think with everything we've been talking about today, it makes sense. It's a bit of a waltz for everybody keeping time to.
What's the name of it?
This song's called I've Been Thinking About Our Night All Day.
All right.
The sun's been out, reminding me of a dream that I just had. Not the kind you find in sleep, but the kind that can drive you mad. Searching the world for answers. Nothing is certain, they say. But one thing's for sure, in this crazy old world, I've been thinking about our night all day. The moon was high, the night was clear, leaving space for love. When you turned and looked at me, I thanked the heavens above. Searching the stars for answers. Anything is possible, they say. But one thing's for sure, in this beautiful world, I've been thinking about our night all day. Thinking about holding you near me. Thinking about calling you mine. How can we know where this will lead us? But there's nothing like one more first time, and you gotta go for it. Searching the world for answers. Nothing is certain, they say. But one thing's for sure, in this crazy old world, I've been thinking about our night all day. Yes, one thing's for sure, in this beautiful world, I've been thinking about our nights all day.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I know who that's about.
Sean Clark.
Oh, that's what I was getting weird feelings.
Come on, y'all.
I was getting some Rolling Stones vibes with that one,
Oh, thank you. Okay, thank you.
like Exile kind of era stuff.
Mm-hmm.
Well, that is one of my favorite albums of all time, and
Yes, sir.
so thank you, Sean. Thank you.
Yeah.
Well, folks, there it is. The Gram Parsons, Bob Buchanan,
Hickory Wind guitar,
Hickory Wind guitar,
played by Jerry Garcia and all kinds of
Jose
others.
Feliciano,
Tim Harden,
Tim
Fred Neil,
Harden,
Bob
Fred
Weir,
Neil, Jerry Garcia,
and Sean Clark,
Sean
Dave
Clark,
Griffin,
Uncle
and
Dave.
David Kraai.
Oh,
played it.
stop it.
Those little skid marks right underneath the pick
That's me.
guard here
That was what I did.
were from all of those magic people's, talented people's picks.
Yeah.
And you said in '86, Bob had it lacquered over.
I think around then. I'm not
somewhere
totally
in the
positive.
back in the '80s.
Over
and
the pick guard too,
over
or
the
not?
actual,
Yeah,
think
it does feel like it's over this kind of, sort of.
which
over this
those were
pick guard.
prone to popping off. weren't
They were, yeah. Which I think, like I mentioned before, which was I think why they switched to the black. Because I know tortoiseshell does shrink. Even like if you have a tortoiseshell pick, after a while it gets smaller and more brittle and will break easier. So if you had like a tortoiseshell pick that was brand new, technically it would be more sturdy than one that's been sitting in your guitar case for 7 years. Again, more
I didn't
guitar,
realize that,
music nerd stuff.
Yeah.
And if you ever want to go completely music nerd, we can have a whole talk about vinyl records sometime.
Well, we'll have you back. Definitely.
Okay, special
Can
vinyl
can
records
plan
deep
on
We
cut.
could
doing
have a
that.
vinyl episode and just like have a
Turntable.
turntable, and
Yeah.
like we could do a deep end like that,
Okay.
and
Yeah.
where it doesn't matter if we're playing songs that whatever. You
I'm
know.
glad I could be a good
Yeah.
influence
Yeah,
on
man.
this.
But you talking about tortoise shell gradually shrinking and everything. That explains why they go. Turtles go from double wide to single wide
I didn't want to bring it up.
in their life. You know, if they live long enough.
That's what I tried to tell my wife.
That's why if they get across the road, all right, you know, and live long enough, they'll they'll go from double wide to single wide.
I told my wife, I know it's shrinking, but it's just nature. It's just the way it happens.
Well, on that note, we're going to a tale of the week, and this is one that I wrote at one of my early ones. This is one that I wrote in the very first year that I was doing them, and it kind of relates to our guest because I know he's a big fan of that, and you talked about this a little bit earlier. So
Great. I can't wait.
this is a quote from a wonderful Showtime series that I thoroughly enjoyed, maybe because I've been in music my whole life. But I was digging on YouTube today trying to find this quote on a YouTube snippet. But instead, I found this guy tearing this show apart, critiquing it. But I loved it. It was from Roadies, a Showtime one of those Showtime episodic things, you know, and this is from season 1, episode 5, called Friends and Family. This is spoken by Luke Wilson, the actor, whose name was Bill on the show. It's Owen Wilson's brother.
Mm-hmm.
They kind of sound like a little bit like Jack Nicholson. Well, you know that Gram Parsons virtually created country rock when he inspired the Rolling Stones to record Wild Horses in 1971? Without the man that wore that jacket, the jacket that I'm going to get, you got no Eagles, no Kenny Chesney, no Tim McGraw. And country? Country stays traditional. And Taylor Swift is working at Tom's instead of being out in space. Anyhow. Nutia Kotlyrenko was born in Kiev, Ukraine on December 15th, 1902, to a Ukrainian Jewish family. When he turned 11, his parents sent him and his brother to America to escape the anti-Semite persecution in the Russian Empire. Nutia wandered around the U.S. working as a shoeshine boy and a boxer, and claimed to have hung out with the infamous Pretty Boy Floyd. At the age of 32, he met and married a Minnesota girl by the name of Helen Bobby Kruger. The newlyweds moved to New York City and opened a ladies' boutique specializing in custom-made apparel for burlesque dancers. In 1940, Nutia and Bobby had relocated to Los Angeles, where they launched a line of Western wear out of their garage. By 1950, they operated a permanent shop in North Hollywood, selling customized suits and eventually customized boots, belts, saddles, and even automobiles. His very first client in 1947 was a struggling country singer named Tex Williams. Nudie persuaded Tex to buy him a sewing machine. In exchange, he designed clothing for Tex. From the beginning, his designs were flamboyant and ostentatious, littered with rhinestones and themed images using chain stitch embroidery. Among his early creations was Elvis Presley's famous $10,000 gold lame suit that the singer wore on the album 50 Million Elvis Fans Can't Be Wrong.
I did not realize that was him.
That was Nudie that did that.
I did not realize that one.
The gregarious Taylor created outfits for legendary film stars, Roy Rogers and Dale Evans.
You gave me, I think, the wrong paper.
Oh, no, I circled the numbers.
I got the wrong paper there.
Well, I can't give you mine. Okay, next. Roy Rogers, number 2. Roy Rogers and Dale Evans. Okay, we'll just move on. John Wayne and Gene Autry. He was the architect behind Hank Williams' white cowboy suit with musical notes on the sleeves, as well as Gram Parsons' famous suit adorned with marijuana leaves, pills, naked women on the lapels, and a huge cross on the back. Parsons' suit is now on display in the Country Music Hall of Fame in Nashville. His list of customers reads like a who's who of personalities, including Bob Dylan, John Lennon, George Jones, Porter Wagoner, Buck Owens, Cher, Elton John, Glenn Campbell, Ronald Reagan, Robert Redford, Monkey Mike Nesmith, and ZZ Top. Many celebrities and dedicated customers attended Nutia's funeral in 1984. Dale Evans delivered his eulogy. Nutia Kotylenko entered this country as an 11-year-old immigrant son of a Ukrainian bootmaker and found fame and fortune, equal to many of his fabled customers, as a rodeo tailor in Los Angeles. Were it not for the immigration officials in New York City having trouble understanding his name, the world may have never known Nudie Cone.
Yeah.
What was the hang-up?
Some of them's not working.
Oh, okay. Well, folks, you missed a dizzying array of...
The post there.
Oh, yeah, we'll show them in the post-edit. A dizzying
I didn't
array
realize
of customers.
I knew that Nudie did the jumpsuits. I did not know he did the gold lame.
Yeah.
Yeah,
You
boy.
knew that.
Although I guess they, for hype, said that it was $1 million suit, whereas I think it was actually one of the least expensive suits he ever
Probably, yeah.
produced.
Yeah. It just looked like $1 million.
That's him and Elvis right there. How about that? That was
In that picture, it looks baggy on him, like, doesn't it? But like when he's doing that wiggle across the stage.
Yes.
Well, I love the quote that Gram said about the Nudie suits. He said, "We don't wear rhinestones because we think we're cool. We wear rhinestones because we think rhinestones are cool."
Yeah. 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 Well, folks, we appreciate y'all hanging out with us for this conversation and music with one of our good buddies all the way from the state of New York and the town of Woodstock. You can't get any better than that, I don't think.
Come on up, take a visit, and
Well, we'd like to. We was talking about the possibility of doing a East Coast stagecoach jaunt, you know.
Wow.
and figuring it out where
I'd love to have you up there.
Yeah, we can have him jump on.
we could
some
take
shows.
the Page Brothers halfway up, and then have you meet us halfway and go the rest of the way.
Let's do it.
Figure it out. We'll figure it out because, after all, we're so busy.
And while we're figuring all that out, everybody else listening can figure out how they're going to mosey on down to Waycross, Georgia from October 12th to 14th for this next Gram Parsons guitar pull.
Exactly.
Where I know I'll be. I know
Yeah.
this guitar is going to be there. I know
Yeah.
these boys
Come
are
see the
gonna be
guitar
there.
in person.
That's right. That's
And
right.
there's going to be a lot of other fun too. So
Oh, yeah.
you can never know exactly how amazing it's going to be because there's an intangible
beautiful.
element.
It is beautiful. Very cosmic.
Yes.
Yeah. The caboose, that's out at the local fairgrounds. So they have a red caboose out there, this being a train town. And that's where we set up the main information tent right there next to the caboose. And Lynn wrote, one of the windows of the caboose got knocked out, and they replaced it with a white plywood board. And Lynn wrote on there, no, it was a green plywood board. She wrote on there in chalk, welcome to the Gramley reunion
Nice.
last October. And it's still there. It's been through the agricultural fair last year. It's been through several other different functions that other people are putting on out there, and nobody's erased it yet.
Good.
Yeah, it was holding its own all this past weekend through Swamptown. So maybe
And I'm sure brought a smile to plenty of people's faces.
oh yeah, maybe it'll still be there come October. But yeah, folks, anytime you want to, come on down. We put on 2 music festivals a year right here. Swamptown Get Down in March and Gram Parsons Guitar Pull in October. Some of the best music you'll ever hear. And it's very affordable too. Just like our Patreon account.
Yeah. $5 a month.
$5 a month. Or
For the
something
price
in
of
the
a cup of
water.
coffee.
You can't get a pack of potato chips for that. And it's the Something in the Water, the deep end.
You could
Only
save a puppy or you could watch us talk nonsense.
You decide. And of course, this regular episode right here comes out twice a month on the 1st and the 15th of every month. You can find it on every YouTube, every podcast channel out there. On YouTube, on Facebook. It's on our own website, somethingthewaterpodcast.com. It's on Spotify. It's on
Is it the podcast app?
Hey, how you doing? I don't know. It's everywhere that you can find podcasts in this fine world.
David, tell them where they can find you. You said your website a few times, but
Sure. Yeah. Again, my name's David Kraai. That's spelled Kraai. Sounds like cry. It means crow in Dutch, like the bird. And my website's davidkraai.com. My music's on, there it is.
Right there.
My music's on all the different platforms, Amazon, Spotify, et cetera, et cetera. You can get real CDs here or Amazon, whatnot. Got a Facebook page, all that jazz. And I'm always rambling around, so I'd love to see you out at a show. And of course, since I'm a rambling troubadour, if you got a venue in your town that you think I'd be good for, shoot me an email. Let me know. I'll come see you.
hit him up.
Awesome. Hey, can we go out with his video that he shot for the 2020 virtual Gram Parsons guitar pull?
Yeah. Remember this one?
Thank y'all for watching. Come back again.
Thank you. Great to be here, guys. Peace. Hey, guys. It's David Kraai, and we are right here in the heart of Woodstock, New York, with a little Gram history for you. This building here used to be a music venue, long time ago, called the Elephant. And way back in 1971, an album came out by Mr. Fred Neil, a great folk singer who Gram looked up to, and so did plenty of other people. And I grew up listening to him with my dad, but he put out an album in 1971 of a live show from right here. That album's called Other Side of This Life. And that might ring a little bell, because those Gram demos that came out way, way, way later were on a collection called Another Side of This Life, because Gram did do a few Fred Neil tunes on that collection. But back here, when Fred Neil recorded that show, Gram moseyed right through that door and sat in with him. And he played piano and sang some background vocals on the song we all know and love from the Byrds' Sweetheart of the Rodeo, You Don't Miss Your Water. Now, we can't be sure, but I'd pretty much bet this song probably hasn't been played right on this ground since then. I thought, hey, beautiful Woodstock day, making some Gram music for you all. Let's do it. In the beginning, they renovated that whole building now it's a super bougie restaurant. Like you know, probably like $30 drinks, you know. But I was blind.
Somebody was working in there then, wasn't it?
Yeah, that's what they were like renovating that. And I could not see.
Well, it certainly don't look super bougie.
But when you left me. Yeah, it looks a lot different now.
Oh, okay.
Oh, how I cried.
Yeah.
You don't miss your water till your well runs dry. Now I was a playboy. I could not be true. I really believed I could not love you. But when you left me, you don't miss your water till your well runs dry. You don't miss your
Man,
water
that guitar booms, don't it?
till your well runs dry. You don't miss your water till your well runs dry.
When the cold black water finds its way across through your veins, it just might seal your fate. It just might seal your fate. It just might seal your fate.